On problem number 2, they asked me to find the surface area of the cube, then the surface area of the rectangular prism. So, on the cube, if I separated out the base of the cube, it would have been 2.5 and 2.5. And the height would have been also 2.5. Okay? Now, with that being said, my perimeter would have been 10. My base area would have been 6.25. So this became pH 10 times 2.5 plus 2 times 6.25, which gave me 37.5 for my surface area of the cube. When I look at my prism that's on the bottom, if I separate out the base on it, the base of it was 11 by 9, and the height was 7. So the perimeter of my base would have been 11 plus 9, which is 20, times 2, which is 40. My base area would have been 11 times 9, which is 99. So when I go to calculate my surface area, this would have been 40 times my height, which is 7, plus 2 times 99, which gave me the 478. They said the surface area of the composite figure. They added 37.5. They added 478, the area of the cube, the area of the rectangular prism. And they said that I had to take away 2 of these pieces that overlapped. The overlapping piece was this area, 6.25. I had to take 2 of those away, which is where I came up with 503 meters squared. Everybody okay? Understand the concept? Okay. For number 3, which was that essential question, you'd find the surface area of each prism that make up the solid. You'd add those surface areas together and subtract any of the parts that are no longer on the surface. In other words, those pieces that overlap. They're not on the outside now, but they're on the inside, so I've got to take them away. In problem number 4, it said they're wrapping a box, and the box is going to look like that. And they said not including overlap. In other words, when you're wrapping a present, typically when you wrap it, you leave the paper a little bit long on the ends, and you kind of fold it down. They're not counting the part that overlaps. They're saying, what if I could take a sheet of paper and cover up each face exactly? So they're looking for the surface area of this. I treated this piece as my base. I separated it out. 10, 3. That made my height 4. P and B both come from this, perimeter, and the base area. The base area is 10 times 3, which is 30. The perimeter is 10 plus 3, which is 13, times 2, which is 26. The formula says pH plus 2B. So it would have been 26 times 4 plus 2 times 30, which is where the 164 inches came from. Okay? On number 5, there's a couple things that happened. It says, Dimitri wants to cover the top and the sides of the box shown with glass tiles that are 5 millimeters square. How many tiles does he need? Notice this says 5 millimeters. This says what? 15 centimeters. Before I do anything with this 5 millimeters, we're going to change that to 0.5 centimeters. If you didn't make that conversion, you obviously couldn't get the right answer. They're covering up not all 6 faces of this box, but how many faces are they covering up? They're covering up 5 of them. I still would have found the surface area of the box, and then I would have taken away one of the bases. It's not the only way that you could have done it, but certainly one of the ways that you could have done it. I would have separated out the base, which is 20 by 15, and the height is 9. The perimeter then is going to be 20 plus 15, which is 35, times 2, which is 70. Somebody grab that for me, please. Okay, so the base area we'd find by taking 20 times 15. This would be 300. Okay? Then the surface area of this would be P times H plus 2B. But do I want to cover all of those bases? So how many B's am I going to add? Instead of adding both of them, I'm only going to add one of them because I don't want to cover up that bottom. So I'm going to take the 70 times 9 plus the 300, and the surface area that I want to cover is 930 centimeters squared. That leaves off that one bottom piece by only adding one of them in. I didn't add both of them. If these squares are 0.5 by 0.5, then they cover 0.25 centimeters squared each. So if I take 930 and I divide it by 0.25, you should end up with 3,720 tiles. Okay? We good on number 5 now? Understand what we did. There is 6 and 7. I'm going to tell you that a lot of people, again, that I see doing this type of problem try to do it with 2 separate prisms, and I did not. I separated out this shape, and I treated the height of the prism as 3, the distance between those 2 faces. Now, they told me this was 3. They told me this was 3, this was 1, this was 1. If the whole thing was 3 and I've used one of it up, this is 2. If the whole thing was 3 and I've used one of it up, this was 2. Okay? So, I can find P and B of this shape that's on the bottom. 3 and 1 is 4. 4 and 2 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. Plus 1 is 9, plus 3 is 12. To find the area of this, I'm simply going to draw a dotted line. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 1 was 2. 3 plus 2 is 5. So all I have left to do is pH plus 2B. P is 12. H is 3. Plus 2 times the base, which is 5. 12 times 3, 36, plus 10, 46. How many people find that this would be much easier than the method that they tried to use? Be honest. Okay. And again, anytime that something is identical from the top to the bottom, you can treat the whole shape as one prism and separate out that base and find its perimeter and area. Likewise, when I came over to this problem, this is a prism, one solid prism. I did not treat it as a rectangular prism with a triangular prismed roof. I did this. I separated out the base. What's the height if this is the base? What's the height? It is 4 feet. It's the distance between those two faces. They told me this was 3. They told me this was 2, which meant this over here was 2. They told me that each side of this was 2.5. And they told me from here to here was also 2. Okay? Perimeter. 2.5 and 2.5 is 5. 5 and 4 is 9. 9 and 3 is 12. The area of the base, I would have drawn a line across here and calculated the area of the rectangle. 3 times 2 is 6. And to calculate the triangle, I would have taken 1/2 the base of the triangle, which is 3, times the height of the triangle, which is 2. Half of 2 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. So the triangle has an area of 3. The rectangle has an area of 6. The whole thing has an area of 9. So, with that being said, then, it would have been P times H, 12 times 4, plus 2 times 9. 12 times 4, 48. 2 times 9, 18. Put 2 together, 66 feet squared. Easier to treat it as a whole prism, or would it be easier to treat it as 2 separate prisms and try to get the answer? A whole prism. Questions? There's 8 and 9. Prism, that I can treat this as one solid prism with a base shape that is a trapezoid. Oops, I want that piece. If this is my base shape, what's my height then of the prism? What's the distance between the two trapezoid shapes? If this is my base, my other base is back here, what's the distance between the two bases? That's my height. This was 16, 16, and 16. So across the bottom, it is 48. This side was 20. This was 20. On the top was 16. And the height of this trapezoid is 12. Perimeter, 20 and 20 is 40, plus the 48, plus the 16. My perimeter is 104. My area of my base would be 1/2 the height, which is 12, times base 1 plus base 2. Well, half of 12 is 6. 48 and 16 is 64. And 6 times 64 is 384. I have all the information that I need now to calculate the surface area of this ramp. It says pH, so I'm taking 104 times 24 plus 2 times 384. 24 times 104, 2,496. 384 times 2, 768. If I add that, I get 3,264 inches squared. Easier to treat as one solid versus treating it as 3 individual pieces being slid together. Okay? Pretty good? There's 10 and 11. You think I treated this as one solid or 2 individual pieces? I did. I treated it as one solid. This was my base shape right here. If that's my base shape, what's my height going to be?
1.
It's going to be 1. Okay? It's the distance between those 2 bases. So with that being said, I separate out that base shape. Pick it up. The base shape was 7, and this was 2, which meant over here was also 2. This was 3, this was 3, this was 3, which meant here was also 3, and this was 1. Okay? P and B both come from this base shape. So I'm going to add up going around the outside. 7 and 2, 9. 9 and 3, 12. 3 more, 15. Plus 1, 16. Plus 3, 19. Plus 3, 22. Plus 2, 24. The area of my base, I drew a line across here. 2 times 7, 14. 3 times 1, 3. And I added those, 17. So the area is going to be pH, 24 times 1, plus 2 times 17. When I do that, it gives me 58 feet squared. Over here, it said a can of spray paint covers 25 square feet. If I've got to cover 58 square feet, then I'm going to divide 58 by 25. 58 divided by 25 is going to give me 2.3. Okay? Can I cover it with 2 cans of spray paint? No. I'm going to have to get 3 cans to have enough. If I buy 3 cans and each can costs $6.79, 3 times $6.79 is going to be $20.37. Did they have enough money saved up? No, because 15 isn't going to cover it. We all good? Understand the concept of dealing with a solid figure.